Can I just say something about Andrea?
Welcome back, everybody. We are checking back into the trial of Jim Martin for his attack on Christy Martin back in November of 2010. We just finished the cross-examination of Christy Martin, and it was, a little more effective than I think I would have liked. We've gotten maybe a little out of the just practice of hearing a kind of short, tailored cross-examination that took less than an hour in a high-profile case. It's just not the kind of thing that we see all that often anymore, it seems like. So little bit different, not a whole lot of meandering, much more focus on the points that the defense really thought were going to be, most helpful, and tends to help them when they don't dilute the contradictions and just issues that they have to highlight with a whole bunch of extraneous information. So based on that cross-examination, the defense has highlighted inconsistencies primarily in Christy's different accounts. When she was first interviewed, while she was still in the hospital, like actively receiving treatment, having tubes put in her wounds, she was interviewed by one of the detectives. And according to the transcript of that interview, Christy had made some comments where she was asking if Jim was dead. She had suggested that she tried to shoot at Jim, that she had the gun. And this is going to be a really important point for the defense because they want to turn this into a self-defense case. So the fact that Christy's gun was involved and the fact that there are these statements that seem to imply at least some kind of aggression on Christy's part, albeit at what point in the process, we don't know. We know that these things are likely to be what they are building their theory on. So we're taking a break at this point from Christy before we get back into Christy's redirect to hear from the doctor, the emergency doctor who provided her with the life-saving treatment that she received. Once that doctor is done, he's being taken out of order. We will go back to finish with the redirect of Christy Martin and see if the prosecution is able to rehabilitate some of those inconsistencies that came out.
That's fine. Raise your right hand, face this young lady to my left and be sworn.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Before you sit down, would you give me your name and then spell your first and last name?
Matthew Lube, Mathew, and Lube as in boy, E.
One B.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sir, would you have a seat to my right, please?
Fairly young doctor.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, the state of Florida would seek introduction of what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit CU.
Have you shared them with your colleague?
I have, and for the record, these are medical records of Orlando Regional Medical Center comprising 203 pages that are under business record certification.
Judge, the defense received the business records notification last week. At this time, we're not going to object. I have had that information. The records themselves are quite long.
Gentlemen, there was a notice previously concerning these records. Is there an objection, Mr. Hancock?
No, Your Honor.
All right. There was a notice of intent to rely upon business records certification.
Yes, sir. We received that last week.
All right. You may inquire.
Thank you. Is this being accepted in that instance?
No objection.
Then they'll be received. We skipped a number. Would it cause a problem if we identify these as number 8?
I have no problem with that.
Identify them then as State's Exhibit 8 in evidence?
And after marking, I'll approach the witness with State's.
You certainly.
While that's being marked. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Would you please introduce yourself to us and tell us what you do for a living?
My name is Matt Lube, and I'm a trauma surgeon at Orlando Regional Medical Center.
And would you tell us your educational background?
I went to medical school at the University of Florida. I did a general surgery residency and fellowship here at Orlando Regional Healthcare Center.
And did you also graduate from undergraduate school before that?
At University of Florida, yes.
And how long are you board certified? Excuse me. Or
Yeah,
having certification?
I'm board certified by the American Board.
If you would, let him finish completely, pause just a brief second so that the court will not have two of you talking at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'll re-ask the question. Are you currently licensed in the state of Florida as a medical doctor?
Yes, I am.
Do you have any certifications or board certifications within your field?
I'm board certified in general surgery by the American Board of Surgery, and I also have added qualifications in surgical critical care.
And how long have you worked in trauma and as a surgeon?
I've been a surgeon for 15 years, and I've practiced trauma surgery for the last 9 years.
And besides trauma surgery and trauma care at Orlando Regional Medical Center, do you have any other professional responsibilities at the hospital?
I educate residents, and I'm also the clerkship director for the medical school at the University of Central Florida.
And how long have you been in that position for?
At University of Central Florida for 2 years.
And how long have you worked in the education of medical students?
9 years.
And have you previously been asked to testify in deposition or trial as an expert witness in the field of medicine or trauma?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, may we approach the bench?
Yes.
So it sounds like they're qualifying him as an expert, even though he's kind of a recipient. If he's the one who treated Christy, then
Sir, as to your witness,
Yes, Judge. Would the court, at this time, the state of Florida would tender Matthew Lube as an expert in the field of trauma surgery?
No objection from the defense, Judge.
members of the jury, this witness, Dr. Matthew Lube, will be designated an expert in the area of trauma surgery. At this time, let me read you the expert instruction. And remember now, you will get a copy of everything that I read to you at the time you are excused to deliberate. Expert witnesses are like other witnesses with one exception. The law permits an expert witness to give his or her opinion. However, an expert's opinion is reliable only when given on a subject about which you believe his or her to be an expert. Like other witnesses, you may believe or disbelieve all or any part of an expert's testimony. Sir, you may.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Doctor, I'm approaching with two items. The first is what's been accepted as Exhibit 8. These are the entire medical records from Orlando Regional Medical Center of Christy and Martin. I'm also approaching with a selected copy of records that I believe you've reviewed before. Dr. Lube, have you, prior to your testimony today, have you had an opportunity to review medical records of Christine Martin?
Yes, I have.
Now, Ms. Martin was received at Orlando Regional Medical Center the late hours of November 23rd of 2010.
That is correct.
And how did she arrive at the hospital?
She was transferred to us from another hospital.
And given your background and experience in working in trauma medicine, when is a patient transferred from an outlying hospital to Orlando Regional Medical Center?
Well, we're the only trauma center in mid-Florida, so most of the times when trauma patients arrive at smaller hospitals, they'll send them to us for a higher level of care.
And is there certain criteria or requisites before a patient would be transferred?
It really usually depends on the capabilities of the transferring hospital.
When Ms. Martin arrived at Orlando Regional Medical Center, what was the physical, would there have been a physical assessment of her upon her arrival?
Yes, she had sustained a penetrating injury to the left chest.
And what do you mean by a penetrating injury?
Either a stab wound or a gunshot wound.
And besides the penetrating injury to the left chest, were there any other penetrating knife or cut injuries observed?
There was a laceration to her left lower extremity.
Do you know exactly where on the left lower extremity?
I can't recall right offhand. I believe it was in the area of her left calf.
Was an initial evaluation done of Ms. Martin to determine if she had any or the extent of her injuries?
Well, it appeared that she had a chest tube placed at the outlying facility for what appeared to be a penetrating injury to her left chest. And she had, a laceration to her leg.
When she was further examined at Orlando Regional Medical Center, were you one of the physicians that initially cared for Ms. Martin when she arrived?
Yes, I was.
And what were the extent of the injuries that Ms. Martin arrived at the hospital with that evening?
Well, she had a penetrating injury to her chest, which resulted in bleeding into the left side of her chest, and again, the laceration to her leg.
And what is that, the injury to the chest? What was the severity of that injury?
Well, anytime there's a penetrating injury to the chest, that's severe, and that, there's vital organs in the chest that could be injured.
Were any organs injured as a result of this penetrating injury?
More than likely, the bleeding from her left chest was probably coming from her left lung.
Well, did she suffer any sort of specific medical condition related to her chest and her lung that required immediate care?
It required the placement of a chest tube.
And what is the purpose of a chest tube?
Well, a chest tube evacuates blood from around the outside of the lung and sometimes air from around the outside of the lung. That could, when that develops, that could become life-threatening if it accumulates.
And did Ms. Martin suffer from this condition requiring the evacuation of blood or air from her chest as a result of the penetrating injury?
Yes, she did.
And was that care necessary to not only stabilize her, but to ensure that she didn't suffer death?
That's correct. It was.
So is it fair to classify the lung injury or the chest injury as a life-threatening or critical injury?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, in this case, was one chest tube or more than one chest tube utilized?
There was a chest tube that was placed at the outlying facility prior to her being transferred here, and it was necessary for us to place a second chest tube when she arrived here.
Why would that have been necessary?
Sometimes the first chest tube doesn't adequately evacuate the blood from around the lung.
And is that an urgent or an immediate situation that needs to be
Yes.
remedied?
Yes.
Were any radiology or CT studies done of the victim, Ms. Martin's chest, as a result of her workup?
She had a CT scan of her chest performed as well.
And according to the records, were any objects found within Ms. Martin's upper chest?
Yes, there was what appeared to be a bullet located in her chest somewhere.
Bullet located in her chest somewhere. So as soon as I hear there was a bullet located in her chest, I'm expecting that we are going to hear about some ballistics. Not that I think it will matter, because it sounds like the defense is conceding what gun it was fired with. They like that it came out of the pink 9mm because that was Christy's gun. But you don't always get that type of evidence in the case, or sometimes the bullet will fragment, or sometimes it passes through and maybe is damaged on impact or things like that. So the fact that they recovered it from her body and he didn't describe it as fragments, normally, if it's fragmented, they would say that. They would call it shrapnel, or they would call it fragments or something like that. Indicates that there is probably something there that they're going to be able to compare to that firearm. So guess he's maybe not so young as I thought he was when he first came on the stand. He's been a surgeon for 15 years. He's got to be at least in his early mid 40s, I guess. Kept young somehow, despite a rather stressful profession. A couple of things I've noticed, the qualifying him as an expert when he was the treating physician. I do wonder if they had kind of cleared this with him ahead of time. Because this can kind of be an issue if he hasn't been like specifically hired to be an expert. Then what they're doing is they've sent him a subpoena as a percipient witness, but then they are kind of using him as a free expert, as a bonus. They're not necessarily paying him what you would pay an expert to come in and testify about medical issues. I happen to know this because my father-in-law was an ER doctor and had this had this happen on a couple of occasions, and was never real pleased with that. And unfortunately, when the witness is not real pleased with you, they can find ways to not be real helpful with their opinions, because you haven't paid them for that. They're maybe not even necessarily prepared to offer it. So that's just in the back of my mind as a things to look out for. If there's going to be any indications from this witness that maybe he's not so inclined to be an expert, maybe hasn't given this the kind of review and research that he might have been inclined to give it had he been given notice of being an expert. I don't know if that's the case. It's entirely possible that they did, but one of the things that's given me a little bit of a hint about that is the way that the prosecutor asked 3 times about the injuries and kept getting the same answer: the penetrating wound to the chest and the injury to the left calf. And the reason why this catches my attention is because, of course, Christy described being stabbed multiple times. It's just that these are probably superficial injuries, meaning they didn't penetrate the abdomen. They didn't go all the way through the chest cavity. And so, they're not as serious. They might bleed a lot, and there's always going to be a risk of infection and things like that, but not likely to be immediately life-threatening. So the kind of thing that somebody in the ER or in the trauma bay, I guess, is maybe not going to really care that much about. It's not going to be their focus. Their focus is going to be on these far more significant injuries. But it is kind of important for the prosecution's case because they want to corroborate Christy's story as much as possible. And so they want to be able to medically verify what her injuries are and show that those line up with the story that she's told about how this attack went down. So I kind of suspect we might be revisiting that again as we work through these medical records that the doctor seems kind of familiar with, but maybe not like real super familiar with. Again, just that hint that, if you'd paid him to be an expert, he probably, would have read things over ahead of time, been a lot more prepared. Don't know for sure, but it's just the vibe I'm getting here.
Now, the laceration to her lower leg in the calf area, what sort of treatment did that require?
That required irrigating out the wound and closing the wound.
How long, or do you know how long Ms. Martin was in the hospital for in this case?
If I remember correctly, approximately a week.
And would that be a standard length of stay for someone who had a penetrating injury to this extent?
Yeah, sometimes patients go home a little quicker. She was actually here for a few extra days with her chest tubes in place.
Yeah, I have no other questions. Witness.
Mr. Hancock?
Thank you, Hunter. Doctor, why is it necessary to treat these wounds in a trauma fashion?
Treat the wounds to the chest?
Yes.
Well, if you have a penetrating injury to the chest and it injures the lung, and what happens is air could escape the lung and collect outside of the lung and push the heart and the structures around the heart to the point to where the heart can't fill with blood, and that could be immediately life-threatening.
Okay. So basically the air pressing against the heart. What about the loss of blood?
The loss of blood is concerned too. That could also press the heart when it accumulates and cause the same problem.
So there may be internal bleeding and an accumulation of air all pressing against the heart.
That's correct.
Okay. Can you tell with the type of injuries that you were presented with in Ms. Martin, approximately how long a person would last with, in particular Ms. Martin, would last with those injuries without treatment?
Some patients die immediately and some patients could last indefinitely. It depends on how much bleeding there is and how much air escapes from the lung.
Now, I believe in reviewing the records that there was a need for immediate transfusion at the outlying facility, would that mean that she was critical as far as how much blood loss there had been?
Yes.
Would it be possible to lay on the floor or on the ground for an hour with those type of injuries without expiring?
Yes.
Did that appear to be the situation in Ms. Martin's case, or could you tell?
I could not tell.
And could you tell who the aggressor was from your medical
No.
search? Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Can you tell who the aggressor was? Well, this is interesting because I couldn't help but notice that as soon as the prosecutor wrapped up, I'm like, he didn't even use him as an expert. We went through that whole thing about qualifying him and then, what does it mean and stuff. And it turns out from the prosecutor's side, it means nothing at all. But then the defense goes ahead and decides to use him as the expert. But I have to assume that the defense had not already asked him these questions because I don't think they got favorable answers here. Two big things. If the outlying facility provided the transfusions, does that indicate she was critical over the blood loss? He's like, yeah, that's not something that he was a percipient witness to. He's got to use his medical knowledge and opine about what somebody else did that gives him an indication of what her condition was. So asked him his opinion as an expert, didn't get a very good answer, decided to go ahead and try it again. So would it be possible for somebody to lie on the ground for an hour without dying? Yeah, it would. This is kind of the classic, don't ask the question you don't know the answer to, because that just corroborated Christy. That really didn't help at all. Nobody would suggest that he would know from the wounds who the aggressor is. I mean, I suppose it's the kind of question that you ask and you might as well finish it, because that when you do know what the answer is going to be, it's just that probably the jury is already going to know that as well. So not particularly helpful in terms of information and doesn't necessarily rehabilitate the damage to your position that you just did. Yeah, she was critical, but nothing indicates she couldn't have lied there for an hour, hence why she became critical because of blood loss. So defense decided to go ahead and get the free expert and didn't really go the way I think they might have liked it to. Maybe they'll have their own expert. We'll have to wait and see.
Redirect.
Yes, you were asked about the extent or severity of the injury. What would have been the diagnosis of the injury, the primary injury to the chest that Ms. Martin had in this case?
A hemothorax, which means blood in the chest.
I don't have any other questions of the witness, Judge.
Answer that one question.
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Will the doctor be excused from his subpoena for this trial?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Doctor, you free to go back to your duties.
Thank you.
May I approach to collect the items?
Thank you, Doctor. Very happy to go back to work. Doctors don't like spending their day in court.
You want to call your witness back?
Yes, at this time, the state of Florida would recall Christine Martin.
Thank you, sir. Members of the jury, we took the doctor out of order because of his schedule.
So now Christy's redirect. I could see the lawyer kind of telling him we have to wait. Couldn't pick up much more than that other than Jim saying okay. Jim wanted to get into something and the lawyer says it's not the time. All right, Christy, let's finish strong.
All right, the jury is alerted. The witness is back on the stand. All right, sir.
Thank you.
There was a couple things I wanted to ask you about. And the first is a question I actually forgot to ask you during my first set of questions. The day of this incident, what was your physical abilities? I mean, how good a shape were you in the day of the incident?
The day of the incident, I was not in good shape. I had basically been in the house for 3 years. I had trained periodically to have a couple fights, but I mean, even my skin color was gray, so I was not in good shape, and I was about 25 pounds lighter.
Were you able to jog or lift weights or things like that?
I hadn't been jogging or lifting weights. I had just that day or maybe 2 days prior started to go back to the gym.
Okay. You've had an opportunity to see the defendant in court today. Does the defendant's physical presence or appearance, strength, appear to be the same today as it was the day of the incident?
No, not so much today. The day of the incident, you know, he was a weightlifter always, and could bench up to 200 pounds, right at 200 pounds. Was working hand pads with the fighters in the gym. He ran a little bit, but not a lot, but was in great physical condition. And this was right after the heart attack, or not heart attack, but the open heart surgery as well. The doctor gave him no restrictions.
Well, after that surgery, and we saw the picture from the hospital, was the defendant back to training other fighters?
Yes, sir.
And did that include using hand pads to take punches from fighters, training them in the gym and things like that?
Yes, sir.
Real quick, the catching, holding the pads. Holding the pads is itself can be a lot of work if you haven't done it. We do a lot of pad work at my gym because it's just it's a good way to work, you know, with groups. You have partners, and you're doing the same motions when you catch a punch as when you actually, you know, throw the punch. You're just not, you know, turning over your fist and landing. But it's the same thing as far as like you're rotating and stuff like that. So, you know, sometimes holding mitts for somebody can get your heart rate, you know, pretty high. You're probably not gonna walk right in off the street and be catching mitts for pro boxers and stuff. So, just you know, it is kind of an important point that he overlooked that they'd want to highlight is, okay, we see Jim here in the courtroom now, and he seems to look kind of frail and small, you know, but is that the condition that he was in back at the time? No, not necessarily. He'd had the open heart surgery, but he'd been you know, recovered from it, no restrictions, was back in the gym, always been a weightlifter, benched about 200 pounds. That's not a huge bench by today's standards, but you know, way more than I'm benching. So, you know, that's a much bigger, you know, bench for a woman. So just in terms of a kind of comparative strength, it gives them something objective, I guess, to be able to work with. So yeah, if he forgot it, it's good that he's coming back and, kind of filling that in, because otherwise it would be very easy for the jury to just assume the people that I'm seeing as they present in front of me right now are in the same condition as they were in back when this incident took place. And if there has been a bit of a difference, then yeah, it's something that they need to know, because the relative size and strength of them is going to matter when it comes to perceptions of harm and just the amount of force that is reasonable to use in response to a threat from that person.
You were asked a number of questions by Mr. Hancock about your conversation with Detective Evans at the hospital. Do you remember or recall how soon after you got to the hospital that you spoke to Detective Evans in those interviews?
It seems like I was at the hospital and then she was right there. I mean, it just seems immediate. I'm pretty sure that I remember that they were trying to put the tubes in my side to reinflate my lung, and she was on the other side of me asking me questions. So they were working on me seriously. I had lost over a third of my blood, so they were giving me blood and working on me to get my lung reinflated, basically save my life.
And what was on your mind at the time that you're being asked all these questions from Detective Evans, and you're still being treated in the trauma bay?
I don't even have a good focus on what she's saying to me, because I'm still thinking about just being shot and stabbed.
Now, During your cross-examination by Mr. Hancock, you were asked about some statements you made during your deposition. Do you recall those questions?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember Mr. Hancock asking you those questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you recall Mr. Hancock asking you, and this is your deposition, which was taken December 1st, 2011, was actually taken at our office, the state attorney's office here in
Yes.
downtown Orlando.
Yes, sir.
So a year later,
Mr. Hancock in cross-examination was asking you questions about whether you asked the doctors if Jim was dead. Do you remember being asked those questions?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall whether you were able to answer those questions?
I did answer those questions when Mr. Hancock asked me, and I think I did. I told him that, yeah, that I asked the doctors that.
And do you recall Mr. Hancock at the deposition, the very next question, asking you, why did you ask if he was dead? Do you remember being asked that question?
No, I don't. Not specifically.
Do you remember answering that question? Why did you ask if he was dead?
No, sir.
Would looking at your deposition refresh your
refresh
memory?
recollection?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
And I don't have counsel's exhibit number, but deposition
I
page.
think that was exhibit.
I wonder if she's
You don't-
wondering if he committed suicide.
Yes, sir.
What I'd like you to do, Ms. Salters, is I'd like you to start at page 60, line 5. And I want you to read through line 12. Just read it to yourself and not out loud to the jury. Have you had an opportunity to review your statement?
Yes, sir.
When Mr. Hancock asked you at that deposition in December, why did you ask if he was dead? What did you tell Mr. Hancock?
I told him that I was really just curious because I knew if he was dead, I was safe.
Your Honor, I have no other questions of the witness.
Read cross.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Witness be excused from her subpoena.
No, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, step down, wait outside.
Not releasing her, so
Go ahead, witness.
We have another witness if the court would like us to proceed.
Go ahead, witness.
State calls Rick Cole.
Rick Cole.
Rick Cole.
Sir, would you come forward, stand in front of this podium here? Face this young lady to my left, raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
All right, just give me your name and then spell your first and last name.
Name's Rick Cole.
Is it Rick, Richard, or?
Rick. R-I-C-K. Last name is Cole, C-O-L.
Sir, would you have a seat to my right, please? All right, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you just stated your name, Rick Cole. Do you know Christy Martin or Jim Martin?
No, I don't really know them, no.
On November 23rd of 2010, did you work that day?
Yes, I did.
And at approximately, well, what time were you coming home from work?
He's the
Either around
driver.
5:30 or 6, after running some errands.
Did you make some stops prior to going towards your subdivision?
I did.
And where did you stop at?
Walmart and I believe McDonald's.
When, after your trip to McDonald's, did you head home just like you would every other night?
Mhm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. Did something unusual occur that night as you were driving home?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
As I was coming down Thompson Road, getting ready to turn into my subdivision, in the road ahead of me, I noticed someone out in the middle of the road. Just thought that it may be a neighbor or someone, but then they were waving and eventually basically flagged me down.
Now, this is at approximately what time?
Probably 6:37.
And since it was November, was it dark outside?
It was pretty dark by then.
When you saw the person in the roadway, could you identify or did you know who it was?
No, I couldn't tell who it was at that point. I thought it may just be a neighbor.
When you said that they were in the middle of the roadway, where was your car in relation to that person?
There's a turning lane that turns off of Thompson Road into my subdivision to the left. And she was directly in front.
As in blocking your lane, like you could not proceed forward because you would
She
hit
was a
her?
little bit ahead of that when I first noticed her, but she came towards me.
Did you stop your vehicle?
I did.
Was it already stopped to make the turn or did you stop because of this person?
I think I almost stopped at that point, but when I saw someone coming towards me, I completely stopped.
Were your windows up or down at this time?
I think they were up.
Did that person approach your vehicle?
She did. She came over to the driver's side door. And as soon as she came over, that's when I rolled the window down.
When she got to your driver's side door, did you recognize her in any way?
No.
Could you see
Not a
or did
boxing
you notice
fan.
anything about her or her body?
Well, as she was coming towards the truck, she looked like she may have been limping a little bit. I still couldn't see very well, but it looked like she was wearing a tie-dyed shirt and she had something that she was holding, up to her chest, like a plastic grocery bag or something that she was holding up there.
When you mentioned that you thought she was wearing a tie-dye shirt, did it ever come clear to you and whether or not it was in fact a tie-dye shirt?
Well, as soon as she got close enough and I rolled the window down, saw that she was holding something, I noticed that it wasn't a patterned shirt or tie-dyed like I thought it was before. It looked like it was just blood.
Was that throughout the entire shirt?
It was hard to really see, but it looked like it was all over.
When you indicated that you rolled down the window when she approached, was that just kind of a reaction to somebody coming up to your door?
Yes.
Once you had the window rolled down, what, if anything, did she do?
Well, right away, as soon as I was able to hear her, she asked me, she said, please help me. I need to go to the hospital. I've been shot.
What was her demeanor or state of mind? Did she seem desperate?
Very desperate, almost frantic at that point.
When she said, please help me, I've just been shot, what happens next?
Well, as soon as she said that, I said, of course, and I unlocked my door to get out and help her in, but before I could actually get out, she handed me something, something through my window, and then was getting in the back seat.
Without you directing her or anything, she just kind of handed you something and got in the back?
Right, she just handed it through the window and she's already getting in the back seat.
Before she actually handed it to you or you actually touched it, did you know what it was that she was giving you?
No, I just instinctively took whatever it was that she was handing me.
And did you see what it was at some point?
Well, right after that, I kind of felt the weight to it and noticed that it was a gun. And right after that, she told me, she said, that's my gun, and I just put it on the passenger seat.
And she got into the back seat.
Right behind me.
Now, she indicated that she was shot and to help her. What was she asking you? Anything else in particular?
But she just said, please hurry, please take me to the hospital, please hurry. And she said, I think a couple of times, hurry, I don't want him to know that I got out of the house.
When you heard that, hurry, I don't want him to know I got out of the house, were you still by that location where you picked her up?
Right there, still in the turning lane, basically.
And did that give you extra motivation to get going?
Definitely. I was a little bit concerned at that point. I mean, not knowing what was really going on, but needing to get to the hospital as quick as possible and out of there.
How close to the hospital is that location?
It's not very far. It's maybe 5 minutes away.
So did you start driving to the hospital?
Yes.
And she's in the backseat of your car? Is she giving you more information about what has just taken place?
Well, she was saying that, she said that her husband shot her, but then I thought she said that she was stabbed. I wasn't sure exactly what she meant, if she was shot or if she was stabbed.
Did she
What that
mention
was.
both things, shot and stabbed?
I think she did.
As you're driving to the hospital, do you make any phone calls?
I called 911.
About how soon after she got into your vehicle did you call 911?
Pretty much right afterwards, as soon as, she told me that she had been shot and stabbed, I got on the phone right away. And as I'm calling, she's, just continuing to tell me, please hurry. I think she said a couple of times, I don't want to die. Please hurry, get me to the hospital. And she also, at some point, either just before I called 911 or just right after I had, she also told me that she thinks that he may have shot himself or cut himself or something to make it look like that she had done that. So I think that was right after I had called 911.
As you're talking to 911, do you start relaying information to the 911 dispatcher that she's telling you?
Right, I was doing that. I asked her if she wanted to talk, but I don't think she was really able to at that point to really talk to the operator. So I'm asking her questions as the 911 operator is asking me.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Guessing we're going to get to hear the 911 call.
Sir, in preparation for your testimony here today, did you review that 911 call?
I did.
And does it fairly and accurately depict what that call contained
It
in
does.
that conversation you had with dispatch?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer, I'm sorry. With the Christy marks as states CW and move that into evidence as the next number of exhibit 22.
Well,
No objection to it.
okay, then it's received without objection.
And permission to publish to the jury.
Yes.
This is probably going to be one of those terrible sounds where it, plays through courtroom speakers, picked up by ambient mics, and we probably won't be able to hear much, which is kind of fine, but will be interesting to see what Christy was saying.
911, what is your emergency? Orange County, this is a hospital that's transferred. Can be referenced to the shooting that occurred at Southern Street, Bond Street Trail. Bond Street? Correct. Okay, thank you. I call this is the Orange County Sheriff's Office. When did this happen?
This just happened a moment ago. I was on my way home. She said she's been laying there for an hour. She flagged me down. She's in my vehicle now. I'm taking her to the Hopkins Hospital.
Okay, wait a minute, hang on a second. It was a shooting?
You were shot or stabbed?
I think not here.
Are you okay to talk to her? Sure. She apparently stabbed one.
Okay, she was at 1203 Bond Street Trail when this happened to her?
Yes, I was on my way home and she was in the middle of the street and flagged me down.
Okay, I need to know what happened. I mean, was she shot or stabbed?
Her name is Christy Martin, and she was stabbed.
By who? By your husband, Jim?
Jim? Yes.
Okay, it happened an hour ago?
An hour ago it happened, Jim? She said, maybe longer. She hasn't been able to get to the hospital.
Is he there now? Is he in the house still?
Is he still in the house? She does, yes. She said he thinks he shot himself or cut himself in the side. And she has a gun. She's given that to me. It's in my truck.
Okay, she thinks he also shot himself?
That's what she said, yes. Or she thinks he injured himself to make it look like she did.
Okay, and all of this happened about an hour ago?
That's what she said, yes. Yeah, I'm right at the corner of Rock Springs Road and Welch right now, turning left on Rock Springs to get to the hospital. Sure.
All right, sir, hang on 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, and you're just now pulling into the hospital, you said?
I'm not there yet. That's where I'm heading right now.
How far are you from the hospital?
I'm maybe 3 minutes.
Sir, how far are you from the hospital?
Maybe about 3 minutes. I'm right by Sandpiper Road on Park.
Oh, you're about 3 minutes out from the hospital?
Maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. Sir, what's your name?
My name is Rick Cole, and I live in the neighborhood across the street from her.
Okay.
We're almost there.
Okay, he has no proof of him still inside, his house?
Christy, do you know if your husband is still inside the house? She said he was when she snuck out.
She was, okay. So she snuck out?
Yes, that's why she was in the street and flagged me down so she could get away.
Okay, so she says that he hurt himself, but you know for sure if he really did or not?
I'm sorry.
Does she know for sure if he really did shoot himself or not?
Do you know for sure if he shot himself or stabbed himself? She said she doesn't know which, but he did something.
I'm sorry, sir?
She doesn't know for sure, but she said he did something.
Okay.
I'm calling up the emergency and entrance right now.
What car are you in?
It's a red Suzuki Rodeo. And she said she can't walk, so I'm going to go in and get
You want me to
her.
help you walk?
Right. So you said right now. Okay, I'm going to the hospital right now.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Show him the photos. Christy and the gun.
Which was previously marked as State's Exhibit Y for identification purposes. If you could take a look at that, do you recognize that photograph there?
That is the gun that she handed me.
And is that fairly and accurately depict the gun as it rested in your car?
Yes, that is right where I put it on the passenger seat right next to me.
Sir, you don't have to speak up.
I'm sorry. Yes, the gun, I put it right on the passenger seat right next to me. So, right, that's exactly where it was.
I'm now showing you what's been previously marked as Stacy with an X for identification purposes. Is that a wider shot of that same area?
It is. That's exactly where I put it, right next to my McDonald's.
Did you ever eat that McDonald's?
No.
I'm now showing you what's been previously marked as States W for identification purposes. Sir, if you could tell us what that photo depicts.
That is my truck sitting outside the emergency room waiting for the crime scene people to come and take the gun away and check the things that they check.
And do all these photos fairly and accurately represent those events on that day?
They do.
Right, at this time, the state would like to move State's exhibit W, X, and Y into evidence.
Sir,
Objection, Judge.
we received, Madam Clerk, announce the number of the state's exhibit.
It will be number 23, 24, and 25.
Now, at the close of the 911 call, you're walking into the hospital. When you, I'm sorry.
Ah.
Yes, sir, would you like me to?
You go ahead, tell them. Yes.
Okay. I can stop my questioning, Your Honor.
That would be good.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Sir, you want to step down when I stop?
Wait, what? What? The judge just kind of cut her off and said, stop the questioning. And I guess they're going to have some kind of colloquy outside of his presence. Oh, boy. Good Samaritan, huh? Just drops everything and gets right to it. What needs to be done? I can't help but notice his little pencil, his retractable pencil, the little eraser there in his pocket. I'm thinking this guy is either an engineer or an architect, something like that. Don't know, who knows? But that would be one of my two guesses. But we don't need to know. He's entitled to have a little bit of privacy. He certainly didn't ask to be involved in any of this, but I will say I was kind of curious to find out who the Marlboro menthols belong to. I'm like, there's no way those are Christy's, right? Like, you're not getting through 10 rounds of boxing if you're sucking down menthols. So yeah, just a kind of unfortunate and I'm sure quite inconvenient thing for this guy to suddenly, have thrust upon him, but very much rose to the occasion. So yeah. Bless you, Rick Cole. You the real MVP.
Our members of the jury, that'll complete our work for today. We've done pretty good. Very attentive. So I thank you for your presence of mind and for your attention. During the evening break, please don't discuss the case. Don't form a city opinion about the outcome of the case. It is obvious now that there will be media attention to the case. So please don't do any independent research of any television, radio, internet, iPhone, iPad, any other type of electronic equipment that may have some aspect of this case. Don't form any opinion about the outcome of the case until you've heard all of the evidence, argument of counsel. Florida law, I will read, and you debated the matter as a group. Most important, please don't let anything say anything to you or anyone say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If someone attempts to tell them you're on the jury trying the case and ask them to stop, if they don't, leave them immediately. You report the matter to the court deputy when you return tomorrow. You have to be cautious of family and friends. Everybody likes to share. Everybody wants to be kind and everybody wants to be nosy. So please do not discuss the case with anyone. Meet you if you understand the instructions I've given.
Yes.
Wait, can I see you for just a moment before I discharge you?
So he's going to make that poor guy come back tomorrow. The guy hasn't been inconvenienced enough. He has to have his testimony cut off in the middle.
State, call your witness first for this morning.
State calls Rick Cole.
Mr. Cole is on the stand. You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I believe where we left off yesterday was that you had picked up an injured woman on the street, that you had driven her to the hospital, and that we listened to a 911 call that you had made, and you had just entered the hospital at the completion of that 911 call. Is
Yes.
that accurate?
Right.
Okay. Once you got into the hospital, what did you do first when you got there?
As soon as I got there, I was still on the phone with the 911 operator. Excuse me. I went inside to the emergency room to let them know that I had her out in my vehicle and she couldn't walk. You know, when we first got there, she said that she wasn't able to walk into the emergency room, so.
Now, at this point, had you seen her in light? Had you seen the injuries, or were you just going off of what she was telling you?
I hadn't really got a good look at her. You know, the best look I had was when she had first come up to me when I stopped for her and just saw her with blood on her. So I didn't really get a good look until they were getting her out of my truck to go into the hospital is really the first time I got a good look at her.
Did it take a few minutes for people to come out of the hospital and actually get to the back seat of your car?
It took several minutes. I had to get to the nurse or reception or whatever there at the emergency room and let them know that I had someone in my truck that was injured, stabbed, or shot, or maybe a combination, just wasn't sure. And I went back outside as soon as they told me that they would bring someone right out to be with her. And then they sent one person out. They came out, looked at her, and then went back and got someone else who came out. And then finally, a larger group of them came out with the stretcher to get her out.
When she was getting out of the vehicle, were you there watching?
Right, I was right there next to her. And
About how far away would you say you were?
I was right by the back of my truck when they had the stretcher up by the back seat to get her out. So I was right there on the side by the back seat door.
What was the first thing you noticed about her in regards to her injuries?
As soon as she stepped out, you know, they were helping her out, that's when I saw the back of her calf that was just cut open.
If you could, and I know you just described it as cut open, but could you paint a little bit better of a picture of
hanging?
what it looked like to you?
I'd never seen anything like that on a person before. It kind of didn't look real. This is going to sound stupid, but it looked like a part of a pot roast or something that was just laid open.
Like a raw piece of meat?
Right. Just the whole back of her calf was just opened up.
When they got her out, you indicated that they brought a stretcher. Was she
Right.
able, or were they able to get her onto the stretcher?
They were able to help her out. It took a few people to help her get out of the truck. She just seemed like at that point she was just really weak and just, I mean, obviously the leg, she wasn't able to walk much on the leg, but she just seemed really weak when they helped her into the stretcher.
Was she saying anything at this time as they're bringing her out?
Not really much at that point. She had kind of gotten quieter by then, so wasn't saying a whole lot. They were asking her questions, but just about, you know, how she was breathing or, you know, those types of things, but she wasn't saying much else.
Once they wheeled her away, were you free to go and just go about your business?
No. I was told by the deputies to leave everything there, don't touch anything in my truck, don't open it, don't move it, don't do anything, just wait for them to come. And they took the crime scene tape and wrapped it around, and because the gun was still in my truck at that point.
Okay.
So they were watching it to make sure, I guess, nobody got in there and that I wasn't getting anything out, and they were asking me for permission to search it.
Had you, other than the initial took the gun, put it on the seat, had you touched the gun after that point?
No, not at all.
Once they wrapped your car or the area around your car in crime scene tape, how long were you out there with your car approximately?
A couple of hours at least.
Did you see members of law enforcement then go into your car and start collecting items?
There was a lot of people that were just coming by and looking in. A lot of the deputies were just looking at that. It wasn't until the actual van, I think it was the crime scene unit, had gotten there that they started taking pictures through the windows and inside the truck and the back seat and all those things.
Okay. At some point, was your truck released to you that night?
It was. Later that night, I had an interview with one of the detectives, and then after the crime scene people were done with everything, they took the gun out and searched the rest of my vehicle, and then probably around 11 o'clock or so, I was able to leave.
So at about 11 o'clock that night, you got home from your trip from work?
I think it was about 11 o'clock that night.
Okay. Now, once you got into your vehicle and took it home, sometime after, did you look to see in the back seat if there was blood?
I did. That was something that she kept saying, as we were on our way to the hospital. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm bleeding all over." And
She was apologizing to
she
you?
was, right, on the way. But my seats are dark, like charcoal gray in the back. And it didn't look really bad that night in the dark, but the next day I could see, I could see exactly where she was sitting, because in the back of the seat, the whole back, you could see where there was blood there. And of course, there was a lot of blood on the floorboards by where her, on the floor mat by where her calf was.
If I could have just a moment.
Yes.
No further questions at this time.
Christy apologizing for bleeding all over somebody else's truck, just consistent with the person who doesn't put herself first. She doesn't even feel like, I mean, I understand. I would feel terrible too. I would feel terrible too, bleeding all over somebody's truck. And she's not thinking right. She's just doing what's instinctive, but I just can't help but notice, like, she has guilt over something that isn't her fault. The fact that she needs to survive and has this transport to the hospital, and the guy clearly is okay with it. He wouldn't have offered. He would have drove past like the other guy did if he had a problem with it. But she still feels bad. Still feels bad for bleeding all over his truck.
Cross, please.
Thank you, Honor. Mr. Cole, while Miss Martin was in the truck, she was talking about her husband injuring himself, correct?
She said something about that. I believe what she said was she thought that he had either shot himself or stabbed himself or something to make it look like she did it.
And she said that to make it look like he did it,
I believe that's what she said.
or to make it look like she did it.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So she was telling you he shot himself or stabbed himself to make it look like she had done all of this.
She did say that after she got in the truck, after she said that she was shot. And then she just added, I think he may have done that.
To make it look like she had done it.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross, that's those two questions.
Sir, she wasn't certain that he had done that, though. Is that correct?
No, she said that she thought he did. And then on the phone with the 911 operator, the operator asked me to confirm that. And I asked Ms. Martin, and she said she wasn't sure, but she thought that he did something. I tried to ask her again, and she just wasn't sure.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Sir,
Nothing.
may this witness be excused from his subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that means he may leave the jurisdiction of the court?
Yes, sir.
You're free to go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Not going to be recalled. Well,
Yes.
well. Starting with the doctor, not a whole lot to it other than just she was critically injured and required emergency treatment. Didn't go through in detail the superficial wounds, just the most significant ones, the chest injury, penetrating chest injury, and the injury to her calf. But they have the medical records in evidence, so if the prosecution needs to go through and identify, specific other wounds that we already saw in the photographs, they'll have the ability to do that. Had that little cross-examination, turned the doctor into the defense expert, and it didn't go so well. Just confirmed that, yes, her blood loss was critical. Yes, it would have been possible for her to be lying on the ground for about an hour without dying in that position. Christy, they did that clarification, and so far they've been quite technical over the course of this trial about just the formalities of how things worked. They give each other leeway, like with this 911 call that was just introduced with the last witness. They could have nitpicked the foundation, the authentication, because she's asking him, did you review the call? And then she's handing a disc to be, admitted into evidence. And if you really wanted to be nitpicky, you could be like, how does he know this is the same thing that he listened to? He needs to identify the disc, yada, yada. Or sometimes they'll like play a couple seconds of it. And, is this the same thing that you heard and whatever. So just from a technical standpoint, like they could have nitpicked that and clearly didn't. So there is some courtesies, I guess, being extended on both sides with those things. But when it comes to kind of reopening your direct, you don't necessarily have to allow that. You could have objected to it, and this judge does seem to be a stickler for doing things properly. And so, if you forgot to ask it on direct, you're not always going to get the chance to make up for that and ask the questions again. But seems there was no objection, so let them go ahead and kind of reopen their direct for that purpose so that she could establish, oh yeah, by the way, on the day of, Jim was in a lot better shape. He's not the frail looking little guy that he looks like sitting here in the courtroom today. He's a weightlifter. He benches all this weight. He'd been released from his restrictions after his open heart surgery. She herself had been out of the gym for about 3 years. And hadn't been working out regularly. The interview with Detective Evans seemed like very quickly, and that's really all of the redirect that they did on those inconsistencies in the statement. So, of course, we haven't heard from Detective Evans yet. I'm sure that's coming. Seems like a pretty necessary witness for a lot of this. So. We'll see if that's, if that's enough, if that's a satisfactory explanation that like, look, I just kind of not really focused on the questions and what's being asked of me and so forth, and still kind of in shock and then also being involved in the medical treatment. I had wondered about the doctor if they were going to ask like what sort of medication was she on at the time? Because I would assume if you're sticking a tube into somebody's chest, you've sedated them, you've given them a painkiller, you've given them something that could potentially interfere with their ability to perceive and recall and stuff like that. But didn't ask that either. Kind of left that in the table if it's there. So that's going to be the explanation about the inconsistencies. Is just look, timing wise, this wasn't really a great time for this interview. And then as far as asking if Jim has been dead, she just was curious because if he was dead, then she was safe. I had wondered if maybe she thought because, we hear this statement on the 911 call as well. Oh, he might have done something to make it look like I did it. So she's already kind of thinking down this road. She knows he's a manipulator. And so he's going to try to turn it around on her, right? That's what abusers do, is the Darvo. He's going to make it her fault somehow. So she's familiar with this pattern. She already knows what he's going to do. But I thought maybe she wondered if he was, going to commit suicide, or maybe just, try to injure himself to make it look like she did it, but do it a little too well or something. I don't know. But no, it was just because she was still scared while she was in the hospital that she wasn't safe from Jim. If he was dead, she would know that she was safe, but didn't get that answer. And so then the good Samaritan, the poor good Samaritan who just can't get a break every time he tries to do the right thing, it just turns into this enormous pain in the ass. He gets blood all over the back of his truck. He gets stuck there for hours and hours waiting for the crime scene techs to show up and process his vehicle so he can have it back. Then he has to testify 2 days. He's got to testify in the afternoon. The judge cuts him off, sends him away, says come back tomorrow. So he has to come back the next day to finish his testimony. So yeah, nothing really on that. We are seeing very, very tight questioning, especially on cross. I mean, I gotta give the credits where I see it, even though I don't particularly like this defense lawyer. And there's definitely plenty of stuff that he's done that was like, ooh, shouldn't ask that question, should ya? Does kind of make me wonder, do you actually hate your client? Like some of these things. Oh, like when Christy was on cross and he's asking her all the questions about how, when he was calling everybody under the sun and sending them the dirty photos and stuff, like we hadn't known that had actually happened until the defense counsel elicits it. But I got to give him credit when he deserves it. And that cross with Mr. Cole was exactly how you cross. You have one point to make and that's it. You make it and you sit down. And the point was simply Christy was saying she thought maybe he had shot or stabbed himself to make it look like she did it. And the defense, of course, is going to try to impugn this into guilty knowledge or to make her the Darvoer, like she attacked him and she's setting the stage for them to think, she wasn't the primary aggressor or something like that. So it's something that they're going to use, but there really isn't any other benefit. There's nothing else to get from this guy. So there's no point in, like we see in so many trials, just walking him back through every single detail of what he just said. Like, let's just make him repeat the entire thing. No, don't do that. It's not effective. It's pointless. It wastes everybody's time. It pisses everybody off because they know their time is being wasted. They already heard everything. So just make your point and sit yourself down. And then, by the way, the jury's going to remember it. I can remember it sitting here right now in my recap exactly what he got out of that cross-examination because it was so focused. And it was just eliciting that she thought maybe he stabbed or shot himself so that he could blame it on her. He could say that she had done it. So the case continues. I imagine there's still quite a bit we have to hear. We haven't heard from Detective Evans. We haven't heard from any police officers who responded to the home and what they saw. Now, we heard from the state's opening about Jim had vanished, and Jim didn't reemerge until a week later when they find him in the shed over at the neighbor's house. So we haven't heard any of those witnesses yet. We haven't heard any of the crime scene, forensic kind of people. So we don't know anything about gunshot residue, fingerprints, blood samples, let alone, you know, things like did they go into the phones, for example, and you know, get the final communications and stuff like that? Were they looking for evidence that Jim did send out these photos and things like that? You know, did they get those out of his iPhone? So a lot of that information still to come, and it makes sense to me that they might backload the case with that type of technical information, because I have to expect that's some of the strongest evidence that they have. You know, anytime you've got the objective proof of stuff, you know, here's all the blood samples we took from all over the room, and 99% of them is, you know, are Christy's, and then here's a little bit of blood from Jim from where he cut his hand or something like that. The objective evidence just is powerful at making your case for you. So makes sense to me that they might finish with that, so that's the last thing that the jury hears. But yeah, still got quite a bit of trial to go. So hopefully, you know, hearing Christy isn't the end of it, and we'll be able to build on that and see how well the rest of that evidence lines up with her story. Since we're told it's about credibility, then there should be you know, corroboration. So we'll see how that turns out. Guys, appreciate you joining me again for this one. We'll be back soon with the next part, and I will see you then.